All right, gobble, gobble. Week 14, rivalry week of college football. It is here, and so are we here on the college football edition of Bet On It. As Kelly Stewart, Marco D'Angelo, we are ready to dish out a couple of winners here on this great holiday week. One of our favorites. It signals a whole lot to come, including a brand new 12-team playoff that we've got to start to get used to. So a big shout out to all of those who have been following us all year long and subscribing and hitting that like button. A very happy and safe as well as profitable Thanksgiving to you and your family. In the meantime, Kelly, kick us off here as rivalry week, maybe none bigger than what we're going to get at noon on Saturday between Michigan and Ohio State. 3 touchdowns. What? 3 touchdowns. Kelly, what are we doing in this one?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. Look, this is tough. 21 points for a team that has beat you 3 straight times. I mean, I understand there's some revenge built in there. I'm understanding that Ohio State just put one to Indiana there in the second half, right? Indiana's Indiana's O-line just couldn't handle it, right? They just got blitzed on every single play. So I don't see how Michigan, who cannot throw the ball to save their lives, is going to come out here and beat Ohio State. But this is a lot of freaking points during rivalry week, and we know that anything can happen. Will Howard, I was very tough on him when he went to Ohio State, and I thought, oh my God, these Ohio State fans are going to be awful to him, right? But 26 touchdown passes, just 6 interceptions on the season against a Michigan pass defense. It's only ranks 54th in the country. Ohio State's going to be able to run the ball against them as well. Yes, Michigan State's got a tough defensive line, but when you have a quarterback that is somewhat mobile like Howard, they're going to be able to open up this game. I understand that this should be too many points, but I cannot make a case for Michigan not to get blown out here in the shoe. It is wild. I am not some chalk-eating weasel that has got all of these things to say wonderful about Ohio State. I don't think that Ryan Day is a great head coach. And we actually laughed about that last week on the show. I think he might do something crazy or boneheaded here to not cover late. I think if you like Ohio State, look towards them in the first half. Maybe they come out strong. Michigan, I think they're going to falter late. We're going to see an interception or something wonky happen. And look, I would not be surprised to see this land 24 or 17. And that's why I'm not getting really involved unless it's early with the Buckeyes.
Be early with the Buckeyes in Columbus at the Shoe. It's always must-watch television. I think it's going to be that way again. Noon kickoff on Saturday. And Marco, boy, we got another good one here. 2 teams definitely not going to like one another. But with Texas already being in the top 3, even if they lose this game against A&M, Marco, they're still in the playoff. A&M has to win this game in order to be able to make the playoffs. What are you thinking we're going to get here?
Yeah, not only does A&M have to win this, but they need a little bit of help from some others as well. You know what? Texas A&M, we went against them last week with a big play on Auburn. And, I was patting myself on the back when it was 21-0 Auburn. Said, wow, how smart am I? And then Texas A&M came all the way back. Not only did they come back, they actually took the lead late in that game. Auburn went down, had a chance for the winning touchdown at the end of regulation, had to settle for the tying field goal. They were inside the 10-yard line late, but then it went to overtime. And it was just back and forth, 4 overtimes, and Auburn prevailed. Now, that had to take a little bit of the starch out of this Auburn team. It's tough for the teams that lose these overtime games, especially when you get to the 3rd overtime and beyond, when they start doing the 2-point conversion skills test. I'm not a fan of that rule, but I was a fan last week because I got Auburn early at 2.5, and I didn't care what happened once we reached the 3rd overtime because I knew I was a winner with that silly 2-point overtime rule. But now you've got an A&M team against Texas. I think there's one way for me to look at this game. I'm going to look at the under in this one. And I know everybody's going to look and see that high-scoring game last week with Texas A&M and Auburn and think, oh, my God, we got a total of 48.5. This is going to sell over the total. You got two good defenses here, and Texas can run the football to go along with that defense. And you know what? If they've got the lead, they're going to continue to run the football because Texas has another game next week. We don't know if Texas A&M has another game next week or not. They're trying to be playing next week in the SEC championship game. I'm going to rely on the Texas defense. They've held 9 of 11 opponents to 17 points or less. And if you're A&M, your game plan's got to be one that features long, grinded-out drives. A&M doesn't want to try to get into a shootout with Texas. You saw what happened last week, getting in that shootout with Auburn. And trust me, Texas is a much better team than Auburn, especially on the defensive side. So with all of that, and what's on the line, this is going to be played like a playoff elimination game. And to me, that spells under. I'm going under the 48.5 for this Texas shootout.
Under 48.5 with two defenses that have been lights out all year long. I am with you on that one there, Marco. We've got one other primetime game we want to break down, and it's going to be the battle of South Carolina with Clemson getting ready to host South Carolina. Two teams, guys, that, well, they still have an outside chance of making the college football playoff with a win. Clemson at home, and crazier things have happened with Mario Cristobal. You know the rule on the show, don't get Cristoballed. Oh, that could very well happen against Syracuse here this week, but Clemson has to handle business at home. This is a long-standing rivalry with two teams that absolutely do not like one another, even though it's SEC versus ACC. In the meantime, you've got a South Carolina team who many people feel over the last month and a half has been one of the better and more consistent teams in the SEC. I find the 49.5 number very interesting in this one here, guys, because no Tigers home game, no Clemson Tigers home game, guys, has seen less than 54 points this year. So I'm a bit scratching my head with two teams that, okay, defensively, but certainly offensively have shown us an ability to put up a boatload of points. South Carolina alone is averaging more than 39 points per game during their 5-game winning streak here, and their offense is just cruising with Lenora Sellers here. This is not one of these shutdown elite defenses Clemson has had in the past. I think they absolutely, both these teams are going to be able to score. And by the way, South Carolina, 7-0 lifetime versus Clemson when both teams are ranked. Both teams are ranked coming into this one. A lot of people think the streak is going to continue here. I think the over has all the value in it. 49.5 points for two offenses that can absolutely drop 40 points on you. I think that's exactly what's going to win this game. I'm looking at the over Saturday, 12 o'clock between South Carolina and Clemson. All right, no better time to check out where the gold is going than with our man, VR, on this Week 14 rivalry week here. VR, tell us, what are you seeing so far?
Time waits for no one, and this is actually the best time for college football. I mean, over the last couple of weeks leading into the end of the season and then the bowl games, and that's when you see the betting syndicates really start to step up their game because you get the influx of recreational money that always adds more value to the betting market because the book is forced to shade towards the bias of all that money, and it's mostly on favorites and over. And on a weekend like this, Joe, where people are off 3-4 days, they're home, they got games on all day, they are firing away. So it's a little bit different. It's almost like bowl season. And that's why we have so much action already from a lot of these groups, where usually that's not the case, especially on college football. But I can share a lot. Let's go over Friday's action first real quickly. Ohio, they laid the 14, they laid the 15 as well. In fact, they did that today, this morning. They came back after laying the 2 touchdowns. That wasn't enough. They laid the 15 also. Miami, and Bowling Green, under 42.5, under 41.5 as well. Go down to Minnesota, Wisconsin, more under money. Again, they're not even waiting until game day where they expect the public money to come in opposite. Again, the bias of recreational bettors is on favorites and over. When you see the sharp bettors, the betting syndicates get out ahead on dogs or on unders, it tells you there's a lot of conviction. Otherwise, they'd sit back and allow the recreational bettors to push those lines towards that bias, get them an even better number, but it's a zero-sum game. They know that other sharps, other betting syndicates are looking at the same screen. They have pretty much adjusted power ratings like they do, so they're seeing the same value. So it's almost a race to get the numbers. When you see them taking advantage this early out on this kind of weekend, you can confirm and be sure on legit moves. And that's why this early on, we have so much stuff to cover. Real quickly, Oregon State plus 20.5. Liberty minus 2.5, San Jose minus 2.5. You'll notice key theme around key numbers of 3, around key numbers of 7. They're trying to get ahead of the public. UCF minus 8, minus 8.5. And finally, East Carolina. They took them as an underdog. They laid them as a favorite as well. +1, -1, -1.5, and some money line. So they hit East Carolina multiple times. Real quickly, Saturday's action. A little less there. That should be coming in later today. But they do have TCU minus 2.5, another key number. Kansas +2, Kansas money line. They even took some 1 again with Kansas. So they like Kansas on the road at Baylor. UAB +3, again, key numbers. Boston College minus 3.5 and -4. Arkansas +4. New Mexico State minus 2.5. Notre Dame -7. See those around those key numbers. 2 totals for you real fast. Over 52.5 South Florida. Over 50 in that Notre Dame USC game. So you see, even in some of those higher profile, big name school matchups, they're getting involved. Where usually they'd be looking at the Wisconsin Green Bays, the Ball States, little conferences like that where most recreational bettors are overlooking. Instead, they're actually betting the marquee matchups just like the bowl games because the lines are shaded more towards the public when they know that that money will overwhelm them as compared to the sharp money. That's what I've been seeing this entire week. That's why I'm so excited. And everybody watching this is like, dude, what does this guy drink or get on before he's on here with all this energy? But it's just about seeing all the possibilities of the damage we can do. So, yeah, I just love being. It ain't even the money, Joe. It's knowing, being right. Being right matters more. But, you know, then the byproduct is the cash. So, you know.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand, VR. It's a correlate. That's a correlated parlay for you for sure.
America. God bless America. What a country.
Let me ask you something here. This week, usually, because you mentioned they're getting out ahead of a lot of these numbers and a lot of these games. Because it's Thanksgiving week, do we see a more of an influence of the recreational money, people off? You know, are we seeing more of that this time of year?
110%. I'll keep restating it, just like the bowl games. That's why I'm not going to pat myself on the shoulder, but that's when I've done the most damage. I think if you go over last year, last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you look at the bowl results, I believe I've turned the most profit because we step up our game. Everything's going to be a more 4%, those kind of bigger bets because of exactly what you touched on. 2 things move money other than injuries and suspensions and weather. It's respect and it's cash. A lot of money and respect will move the line. Public doesn't get respect, Joe, but they do bet a lot of money. Come this kind of weekend, their money outweighs that sharp money. So they will influence this market. They will force line moves. And rest assured, you will see these lines move between now and kickoff. This is not what numbers we'll be looking off come Friday, come Saturday, because they haven't even gotten to the window. They're betting Wednesday college basketball right now. They're not tying up that bankroll for Thursday, Friday, Saturday games just yet. So they have not spoken. They will speak, and those lines will move as a result. That's for sure.
Yep, keep an eye on it. It's a big, big week. Rivalry week, and of course, week 14 in the college football slate. Gianni, are you locked, loaded? What are we expecting over at your page at Wager Talk for the holiday week?
Yeah. I've taken advantage of college basketball right now because everyone is looking ahead to NFL, to college football, and they're dabbling in college basketball, Joe, but they haven't really been paying attention all that much. So we're seeing a lot of value in college basketball. I've already fired a 5% play in the NFL. haven't been very selective on those. I don't think I fired one in a few weeks. 67%. It's already locked and loaded. Don't miss the number. College football, number one over the last 30 days. Looking into a big bowl season, and uploaded a couple college games. The rest will be in there today, tomorrow. So again, I'm just really taking day by day and looking to play some big wagers. It's just that kind of weekend, man. When all the dust settles, try to make some money. Again, it's a great opportunity and a lot of inefficient numbers out there for sure.
Great opportunity to visit Gianni over at wagertalk.com. 7 days all access, $69. Any handicapper. Partner up with him right now at Wager Talk. Visit his page over there at wt.buzz/VR. Yanni, very happy and profitable Thanksgiving to you and the family. And we are going to get ready for a double-digit dog.
This segment's been good all season long, and we've been finding lots of double-digit outright barking underdogs. We got it last week with Florida, which was awesome and, well, relatively easy. We played against a really great offense in Ole Miss, and this week we're playing against a really great offense in Miami. In fact, the number one in passing yardage per game offense. But we've been betting against Miami all season long, guys. This is nothing new. They got a couple of wins against us. Very lucky wins against us, except for that Georgia Tech game where we finally got one back. I think we get this one back in the Carrier Dome. I know a Miami win is going to put them in the ACC championship game versus SMU. But boy, this is no easy task for this lousy Miami defense. Do not get Cristobal'd laying points here on the road. I like Syracuse plus 10 and on the money line.
Words to live by. Do not get Cristobal. You won't have to this week here. Syracuse plus 10.5, double-digit dog for Kelly. And now, of course, we turn to Marco. And Marco, we had a bit of an issue last week. I understand your sandwich gave some people the squirts. So talk to me here about this week. What is happening in the deli? What are we serving this week in the deli here, Marco?
Well, Joe, when you get to the final week of the regular season in college football, it's tough to find a sandwich game, usually, because most of the teams don't have a game next week. But we do have a situation where we do have a sandwich situation, and we're going to take a look at Texas San Antonio, who is actually playing their best football of the season right now. They have won 3 in a row in 4 of their last 5 games. And the game they lost by 1 point. They're 1 point away from 5 straight wins. Now, last week they became bowl eligible with their win. And normally I would say, hey, maybe, they would mail this one in. They became bowl eligible, being fat and sassy. Nope, not so fast, my friend. And the reason why I'm not going to do that is because they're going to come to play. Because they want to wreck Army's undefeated conference record. Army is in the championship game, but they still have the undefeated conference record on the line. But for Army, they took a big jolt last week. They are still alive for the conference, obviously, but they had that monster game with Notre Dame. And a lot of people, not smart people, but a lot of people thought maybe they could hang with Notre Dame, and they got the doors blown off them. So they got a real dose of reality. And anybody that was thinking that, Army might be a Cinderella and pull off an upset and then win their conference and then take on Navy in their annual Army-Navy game and end up with one of the bids into the playoffs, that ain't going to happen. But what is going to happen is they're stuck in the middle of this sandwich game off of Notre Dame in the big game next week for the conference title. I think it's a horrible spot for them. And we know what Army does. They run the football. No, question about it. But Texas San Antonio, their defense, what do they do best? They stop the run. This is a team that has held 8 opponents this year to 100 yards or less rushing. Now, I'm not going to consult your intelligence and tell you that they're going to hold Army to under 100 yards rushing. That's not going to happen. But what they are going to do is slow down that Army offense and make Army have to work for it. And if Army falls behind against this team who is a scoring machine, 5 straight games, 38 or more points for Texas San Antonio, I am going to take them in this one. They're getting the touchdown. I think this is one of those games that's going to go right down to the wire, and let's grab the points. And like I said, if they get a lead and Army's got to force the issue, that's when things go bad for Army. We saw that in the Notre Dame game. I think this is a live dog from start to finish. Give me Texas San Antonio, and I'm going to actually call for the sprinkle as well. 31-24. I think they get the upset.
Woo, little upset brewing there, Marco. I cannot believe it. The squirts may be yours here this week. We certainly appreciate it.
What is wrong with you?
We got oh boy, this is I'm
with
just
all
saying.
the tech issues, with the family members slamming the doors, with the producer's dog barking, and you have the audacity to say that. That is repulsive.
Some people have a gluten allergy. I don't know. Anything that hits you in the right way. All right, I am going to fade Joe Public here today as best I can because this line is telling and it is interesting. But it is the late night degenerate special, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just make sure I got the time here. I believe it is, 11 o'clock Eastern time. It is Hawaii at home taking on New Mexico. Hawaii is getting 2.5 points. And on paper right now, the public is looking at New Mexico and going, this is absurd. New Mexico is the better team. New Mexico can put up points against anybody. Why in the world this number is too low? Well, listen, the Lobos, to be bowl eligible, need one more win. And all they have to do is hop on a plane and travel, 4,000 miles or so into the middle of the Pacific Ocean and deal with a run and shoot offense that Hawaii has. And maybe even more important there is that we have a defense of New Mexico that couldn't stop a nosebleed all year. In fact, they allowed nearly 7 yards a play all season long. And they didn't have to travel halfway around the world in order to be able to have you run all over them. Hawaii is 5-1 against the number at home. Hawaii always has a home field advantage. I think they have an even bigger one with all the pressure being on New Mexico. I think they are a live dog. The public loves themselves some New Mexico, and we have cashed them on this show this year. But I think Hawaii getting points at home in this spot is definitely the way I want to look here. I'll be fading Joe Public in New Mexico. Give me Hawaii at home as a dog. All right, it is time to talk some T&A on this Thanksgiving week, rivalry week, and nobody better to talk T&A with than our good friend Ralph Michaels, the pen in the house. And you got to love this. Week 14 here, Ralph, in college football. Huge rivalries, long-standing traditions, not to mention maybe the start of some new rivalries, of course, with all the different new teams and different conferences. But you went with an oldie but goodie here. Tulane and Memphis getting ready to go at it here. What are we looking at with this game?
You know, first, you got to look at the schedule and say, am I crazy or what? Where the hell is the Egg Bowl? I actually had to look it up. Because they, with the new TV contract, the network actually asked the Egg Bowl to try going to Friday to change up the Thursday game. So, you know, it had been their tradition forever. We'll see if they go back to it. So, obviously, Tulane is very happy to take care of the spotlight. You look at Tulane, their only 2 losses in games 2 and 3 against Kansas State and Oklahoma. And, oh, yeah, by the way, in that Kansas State loss, they had a 95-yard edge. This is a legit team. I look at the Tigers. They are on a 2-6 ATS run. And while you may say they righted the ship last week against UAB, let's remember, they had 526 yards, but they were a 17.5-point home favorite prior to their bye in their last home game. Now, if you look at teams that are a favorite of 11 or more coming off a bye, and they're off a win. So you have a home favorite of 11 or more, off a win and off a bye, like Tulane is. Both teams are off byes. Those teams have gone 101-70. That is 59.1%. When we look at games with low totals in that same situation, that bumps up to 62%. And Joe, how about this? This is a brand new angle for me. No matter how much work you do, you always continue to find new things. I looked at teams in game number 12, the final regular season games, with teams off a bye, and look at this home road dichotomy. An away dog in game 12 off a bye, 23-30, 43% against the spread. A game 12 home favorite off a bye, like Tulane, 64.7% since 2002, 33-18 is the ATS mark. When I look at FBS teams in week 8 and later, so the second half of the season, actually the final third of the season, off a shutout win with a total of 60 or less, a very strong angle of 70.2% against the spread, 33 ATS wins, and only 14 ATS losses. And when a team is a conference home favorite off a win as a conference away favorite by more than 13 against an opponent off back-to-back conference wins, 66-33, 66.7% against the spread. Tulane in conference action plus 102 yards per game. Memphis only plus 65 yards per game. And Memphis has played one of the weakest schedules in all of college football. They are so overrated, having played the number 125 schedule this season amongst FBS foes. Tulane gets it done. Their rush game continues to pile on late. People say, oh, they're a rush team. I don't like laying points with them. I don't like laying double-digit points. But to me, that's the exact opposite. When you have a run team and all they're going to do is run the ball with a big lead in the second half against a team that has allowed over 200 yards several times this year, those teams do extend the lead. Tulane pulls away late. The Green Wave get it done on Thanksgiving. And a happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you.
All right, Ralph, great stuff there. A little Thanksgiving T&A. And Ralph, locked, loaded, ready to roll, I believe, at wagertalk.com for you as well.
Yeah, again, this is a no-brainer week. Do not buy a single play from me, from Marco, from Teddy, from anyone. Why spend $25 or $35 on a 5%? Our Thanksgiving, our annual lowest ever price for 7 days, just $69. No limit to the number of cappers you can sign up with that special. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday with your favorite capper and cash this final week of November.
All right, Ralph. Great. Enjoy. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Now let's get ready for some best bets. All right, let's do it here. It was a profitable week last week here on the show. We'll see if we can keep that rolling. Kelly, talk to us here. Best bet rivalry week, week 14. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I went back and forth on a couple of different games here, but Marco took UTSA in the, well, I don't know what segment we're even calling that anymore, but I liked UTSA as well. So I said for the show, I got to find another one. Now, here's the reality. Every single week, I'm looking for outright underdog winners. But sometimes I know, like, look, unless everything goes our way, we're not winning this football game. And that is kind of my concern with this one. Everything went right last week for Florida. And hopefully everything goes right this week for Vanderbilt, right? What did Tennessee do last week? Well, they didn't prove anything to me because they played a team named UTEP. Just in true SEC fashion, that's what they do in November. While their opponent, Vanderbilt, played Louisiana State University. They went down to Death Valley, and they kept it respectable and got the cover for us. Vanderbilt has been a great underdog all season long, and that is because they've been playing that, I don't know, it's like that fun football, right? Where they just throw everything at their opponent, and it starts to work. Right? This is a Vandy team who would love nothing more than to absolutely screw Tennessee over. This rivalry is funny because it is so one-sided. But I think this is the year that Vanderbilt has a real opportunity to not only keep it respectable, AKA cover the 10.5, but possibly pull the upset, right? This is a Tennessee team who scores only 23.4 points per game in the SEC. I find that very interesting because if you look at their season, when they played a bunch of cupcakes, that was not the case. I like Vanderbilt here, but ultimately I do think something is going to go Tennessee's defensive way. But man, oh man, wouldn't it be fun to see Vanderbilt get the win here at home?
It really would. And boy, that would just put the dagger in Tennessee's season here, wouldn't it? As we're all trying to figure out what will the committee ultimately do with Tennessee if they can win out. But Kelly, I don't think that's going to happen. And I tend to agree with her. Big battle in Nashville coming up this weekend. And also for my best bet, we had Kansas last week. We loved them in that spot. Kind of like them this week. We're not going to go that route here. We are going to go to the Battle Line Trophy, which is a big matchup between two teams that, well, unfortunately, I remember when they were in the Big Eight, in Missouri and Arkansas. Missouri at home and laying a very short number at 3. And listen, the big issue with Missouri all year, for most of it, I mean, this is an 8-win team, but you wouldn't know it. But the injuries all year, especially to their quarterback, Brady Cook, both of their running backs, in fact, Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll, have been hurt. But yet Missouri's managed to rattle off 8 wins, has a chance for a 9th win here in a rivalry that Drinkwitz here knows very well. Why? Because he's from Arkansas there, and he has talked a lot about this game coming up. It certainly has some history for him. He loves this game, and he wants to beat Arkansas in a bad way. And the fact that they are healthier than they have been all season long because Cook, Noel, Carroll, everybody is slated to play in this game. And maybe the thing that should scare Arkansas the most is their quarterback, Green, the transfer from Boise State. He doesn't know where the ball's going. If he's not fumbling it, he's throwing it to the other team. We're talking about a quarterback here, guys, that has turned the ball over a total of 20 times between his fumbles and his interceptions. That makes Arkansas one of the worst teams when it comes to turnovers in the country. In fact, the Razorback have fumbled more than any team in the nation. Missouri, well, they are pretty good in wreaking havoc on the defensive side of the ball. They forced the ball on the ground at least 9 times this season. I can see them doing exactly the same thing here at home. I think Green has already been shown that when he's pressured, he turns the ball over. And I think for a game like this, that's ultimately what's going to decide this, is which defense can get the turnovers, can get the stops. And I think Missouri is heads and tails above Arkansas in that category. And keep in mind, Arkansas, who in the hell have they played on the road this year? This is going to be the most hostile and maybe best team that they have faced on the road as a true road game. They went to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State handed it that team. We already know Oklahoma State is trash. They played at Auburn. They played at Mississippi State, and they were a neutral site game against A&M. This is going to be a wild environment here, one in which I think Missouri's defense gets a couple of turnovers, and they pull away from Arkansas and win this game rather easily. I'll lay it with the Mizzou Tigers here in rivalry week here, week 14 in college football. And there you got it, guys. We are all set. Rivalry week, week 14 on this holiday. I thought he had the squirts. Didn't you? Oh, you're back. I thought you had. I'm sorry. I thought we were vamping.
I forgot about Marco too.
Oh no, I thought he ran to the band. All right, Marco, let's talk here about a best bet that you got here. I'm so confused right now. And this should shock nobody, Marco, by the way. Anybody that's been watching this show this year, this best bet should shock absolutely nobody. So go ahead, lay it out for us, Marco. Where are we going for your best bet here?
Well, I'm just glad to still be part of the show. I guess that's what I'm thankful for. I'm still part of the show. You were like just cutting me right out. Okay, I got to talk to the payroll department. We're going to. Speaking of that, let me promo what we got going at Wager Talk this week. Man, Joe, I think you're going to get a call from Johnny after this show. We've got something to be thankful for. And, I'm thankful that I'm still part of the show. Joe's going to be really thankful if he's still part of the show next week. But this is the spot where, guys, every year we do it. Thanksgiving weekend, the whole week, $69. Normally, it's $99 for a week of service. You can pick any capper at Wager Talk or Sports Memo. Get 7 days for just $69. We've got all the sports going. That includes every sport, every play, and yes, even those 5% plays. 5% plays sell for $35 by themselves. One 5% play is half of a 7-day package this week. Take advantage of it. Head on over to Wager Talk. Pick your favorite capper, and there's no limit. You can buy as many cappers as you want for this price. And, of course, you know what we've been doing. We've had a fantastic 2024. Number one at Wager Talk last 30 days, last 60 days. And since the first week in January, we are up 130 units for our clients, 16-4 on those 5% plays since February. Check it out at Wager Talk. Now, for this game, for my best bet, I am going to go with my hometown team, the Pitt Panthers. Now, if you watched last week's show, I had a best bet. I went against Pitt. And it was a spot where it was bad for the Panthers. They were coming off that big game against Clemson. They battled their guts out, came up short. And I tell you guys all the time, when you get a double-digit dog that plays their heart out and comes up short, generally you're going to see that hangover effect the next week. And that's what happened last week in Louisville. Took them out behind the woodshed and beat the snot out of them. Now we're catching a Boston College team that's coming off of 4 straight big games in a row. They almost beat Louisville 4 weeks back. Then they did beat Syracuse, and then they took SMU on the road as a double-digit dog, 19.5-point dog to be exact, and almost beat them. Yeah, the final score was 10-point margin, but it was 3 points going into the fourth quarter in that game. They had a chance to win that game. They got their win last week. They needed one more win in their final 2 games to become bowl eligible. They beat North Carolina. So what? North Carolina can't play any defense. They fired the coach this week. It's senior day for Boston College, but that's all they got going for them this week. They got their season goal. They're going to a bowl game. I don't look for a big effort out of them. Who I do look for a big effort is from the Pitt Panthers. Pitt's already bowl eligible. They've been bowl eligible for over a month. Yeah, because they won their first 7 games in a row. But they've lost 4 games in a row. And part of that was they played SMU. After they lost that game, that was their first loss of the season. They came back, lost to Virginia the next week. Why? Because they lost the SMU game twice, and that game was sandwiched in between SMU and Clemson. And as I said last week, they had the hangover effect from Clemson. Pitt does not want to go into the bowl games on a 5-game losing streak. They're going to come to play in this game. They can move the football. They got their quarterback. He had missed a couple games. Pitt has been bad with the turnovers recently, but another game under his belt since coming back from injury. I look for Pitt to roll this week. We're going to go ahead, take the Pitt Panthers. They're +5. I've got them winning this one outright, 31-23. Roll Pitt for my best bet for Thanksgiving weekend.
Is that it? Did I forget anybody else, Kelly? Are we good to go? I just want to make sure it's good.
Listen, I've been trying to be done with the show for like 19 hours. Like, I have so much work I have left to do, and this is the longest 2 episodes of Bet On It in my life.
I still have to pick up a turkey, and I don't think they have anymore. This is awful.
Do not get a turkey for Thanksgiving, Joe Raineri.
Thumbs up for us. Por favor, please. Thank you very much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. More importantly, take advantage of that 7-day, $69 all-access opportunity. Any handicapper, use it as many times as you want, on as many handicappers as you want. Visit Marco, visit VR, visit Ralph Michaels, Andy Lang, visit them all. over at wagertalk.com and utilize that 7-day all-access pass for just $69. No reason not to make it extremely profitable. Week 14 rivalry week in college football. And in all seriousness, on behalf of Kelly, on behalf of Marco and the Squirts, Ralph Michaels, and everyone else, VR, we certainly appreciate you guys hanging with us. We want to wish you and your family a very safe, happy, and profitable Thanksgiving. We'll see you again next week with another edition of Bet On It. Don't forget to check out the NFL edition. Links are below, guys. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your week. We'll see you again soon.